Should I ice or heat my aching shoulders? Most people think icing your throbbing shoulders is a good idea, but that couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, the Harvard doctor who popularized icing painful joints recently confessed that he was wrong, because icing your aching joints reduces blood flow. This slows down healing and traps inflammatory proteins that irritate your nerves and tendons. Look, I know icing can feel good temporarily, and it's fine to use immediately after an injury to reduce swelling and pain, but it's vital you do something to actually boost blood flow to repair your shoulder joint. That's why I recommend you try this simple shoulder flow from home. It consists of a few quick movements that enhance blood flow to your shoulder joint to end the pain for good. Let's dive in. Hello, my name is Zach Zenyos. In the next few minutes, I'll reveal an ancient Indian shoulder flow to stop shoulder pain once and for all. Indian warriors used these unusual movements for robust shoulders well into their 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond, despite swinging swords on the battlefield and scythes to harvest crops. And even though they didn't have modern medicine. I know it might sound intimidating, but this ancient Indian shoulder routine is so gentle and easy. When you try it for yourself, you'll love waking up in the morning feeling looser, free of all that locked up, unstable feeling like your shoulder is hanging on by a thread. Imagine easily reaching up to grab your morning coffee mug and cooking breakfast without depending on your spouse to do the work for you. Soon it dawns upon you. I finally got my old life back. You're free to get yard work done instead of relying on younger neighbors, carry the kids in your arms, swing a golf club, or embarrass your friends in a tennis match on the weekend. All of this without your body controlling you. Instead, you are the one calling the shots. Yes, I know this might be hard to believe, but this ancient Indian shoulder routine has nothing to do with yoga. And it's definitely not some old age mumbo jumbo. It's validated by research from Harvard University, the Journal of Rheumatology, and Albert Einstein College of Medicine. Even better, these ancient Indian movements had spread across the world to elite wrestlers, Olympic athletes, Navy SEALs, professional boxers, and even a US president. Just don't let all the talk of warriors and athletes scare you off. This ancient Indian shoulder routine is fun, simple, and works for everyone, from young children to grandparents with arthritis. In fact, if you can stand in your living room and wave your arms a bit, this will be a cakewalk for you, which is how this ancient Indian shoulder routine has already transformed the lives of over 27,591 everyday people just like you. Like Sarah from Naperville, Illinois, who wrote to say,
"After a failed rotator cuff surgery, I thought I'd never be able to play with my grandkids again. But just 3 weeks after starting these movements, I was able to lift my 2-year-old granddaughter for the first time without any pain."
Or Michael from Fort Worth, Texas, who shared,
"I'm a 58-year-old construction foreman, and my frozen shoulder was about to cost me my career. The doctors wanted to operate, but these simple movements saved my job. Now I can work a full day without even thinking about my shoulder."
And one of my favorites, Linda from Portland, Maine, who told us,
"I've been in and out of physical therapy for almost a decade. Within days of starting your routine, I could finally sleep through the night without pain. And I also tried pickleball for the first time with my girlfriends."
That was just a sneak peek of what's possible. And after I show you the exact routine they used, you'll experience a newfound sense of hope, even feel a rush of excitement to try it for yourself, which might be surprising. After all, I've seen firsthand how shoulder pain chips away at your confidence until you think you can't play a round of golf with your buddies. I've watched people break down in tears, telling me how they can't even hug their loved ones properly anymore. But you know what really breaks my heart? When people think they'll have to depend on their loved ones to survive. They've been told by doctors you'll just have to live with it, that surgery is your only option, or worst of all, it's all in your head. Well, I'm here to tell you that's absolutely false, because your pain is real. But please, don't lose hope. What I'm about to show you is unlike anything you've seen or heard before. It doesn't matter if a doctor has told you to blame your rotator cuff, arthritis, inflammation, nerves, or past injuries, because this ancient Indian shoulder routine works with your body to naturally nourish and rebuild your shoulder joint no matter your situation, and without doing YTWs or other weird rehab exercises. Just don't delay watching the entire video, because you know how life gets busy. If you put this off even for tomorrow, you might get distracted with the kids, work piles up on your desk. Next thing you know, months or even years will go by and you're still gobbling up pain pills like they're candy with no end in sight, which would be silly when the answer to your problems is just a few moments away. So please, remove any distractions, because in the next few minutes, I'll reveal how frozen blood flow is the real reason your shoulder pain always comes back with a vengeance. The ancient Indian movements to unlock strong shoulders that never give up on you, and why modern humans have 2 times the joint degeneration as our primitive ancestors, even though early humans hunted and labored for every meal. And the shocking reason to avoid icing your joints, according to the American Journal of Sports Medicine. All of that and more tips to enjoy lasting relief, whether you're 35 or 75. The only question is, are you ready to finally break free from the prison of shoulder pain? Like I mentioned, I'm Zach Zenyos. After serving in the United States Marine Corps, I earned my master's in exercise and nutrition science from the University of Tampa. Since then, I became a NASM certified personal trainer and corrective exercise specialist, helping over 1 million subscribers get in shape, improve mobility, and eliminate pain via our Critical Bench YouTube channel. My work isn't all virtual though. I'm in the trenches every single day working as a licensed neurosomatic therapist, where I help everybody from elite athletes to achy parents and grandparents move like they're decades younger. I'm talking about the construction worker whose back is too sore to play catch with his young son, or the 250-pound bodybuilder who can barely walk upstairs without knee pain. And I'm so proud to say I've helped thousands of people feel like themselves again. I wish I could say this confident feeling lasted forever, because everything changed when I met Julie. She was 54 years old, a nurse, a mother, and someone who'd spent the last 30 years helping others feel better at their worst moments. Julie was always the one people counted on, the rock, the helper. But one day at work, her reality flipped upside down. She was helping move a patient, something she's done thousands of times before, and that's when she felt it, a sharp pop in her right shoulder. At first, she tried to ignore it. I mean, she was a nurse. She knew better than to make a big deal out of every little ache and pain. But this was different. Within weeks, that little pop turned into a constant stabbing pain. She started canceling pickleball matches with her friends, thinking she'd be back to normal after a couple weeks. Instead, the simplest tasks became a challenge. Reaching up to grab supplies from the top shelf at work, lifting her bottle every time she took a sip of water, even putting on her scrubs sent shockwaves through her shoulder. But the worst part, she couldn't help her patients the way she used to. Every time she needed to help someone sit up in bed or reach for something, that sharp, stabbing pain would shoot down her arm. Her coworkers started noticing, "Julie, let me get that for you," they'd say. She hated it. She was supposed to be the helper, not the one that needed help. Home life wasn't any better. Her husband, Mark, started doing all the cooking because she couldn't lift the pots and pans anymore. One day, Julie reached her breaking point. Her 2-year-old granddaughter innocently raised her arm to be picked up. Julie took a step forward and paused, afraid that her shoulder would explode in agony. After a few heart-wrenching moments, her granddaughter's eyes welled up with tears. There was no denying it. If Julie didn't change something, soon she wouldn't be able to care for herself, let alone a child. So she vented her frustration to her husband, hoping he'd at least listen to her. Instead, he just replied, "Oh, why don't you just take some pain pills? You're a nurse. Shouldn't you know what to do?" It was like Julie was trapped in a nightmare. Obviously, she tried the common solutions like NSAIDs, physical therapy, massages, shoulder braces, and injections, but none of them provided lasting relief. And there was no way she wanted to pay thousands of dollars for a surgery that might not even work. To make matters worse, her husband didn't even take her pain seriously. That's when Julie came to my office for help. "I just want my life back," she whispered. So I locked eyes with Julie, and I promised her I'd help her get rid of her pain for good. Although she'd already tried resting, stretches, corrective exercises, and whatever else the physical therapist tells you to do, I knew something the PTs didn't. And it all starts with a Harvard doctor's shocking discovery. You see, Dr. Ian J. Wallace spent years studying ancient skeletons from up to 6,000 years ago. Considering they were likely squatting in fields, bending over to gather food, chasing their next meal, you would expect their joints to be worn down to the bone. But that's not what happened. According to the research, they had half the joint degeneration we have now. even though we're not hiking miles for water or food. I mean, we're mostly working office jobs. That's when I came to a stark realization. Shoulder pain isn't about wear and tear like your doctor may have told you. That means resting your joints is not the answer. In fact, the real solution requires you to move your body. Because while most doctors look at your joint cartilage, tendons, or a pinched nerve, they should really be looking at blood flow through the shoulder joint. Funny enough, our ancestors and even children get this part right. In primitive times, we would throw rocks and spears, carry heavy objects overhead, and dig. When we're kids, we throw baseballs and hang from the monkey bars. You probably didn't realize it, but these movements were rushing fresh oxygen and nutrient-rich blood to your shoulder joint, which is why we've always had healthy shoulders, except for adults in the 21st century. Because as you get older, you stop using your shoulders to climb trees, let alone chop wood. I bet you mostly use your shoulders with your arms in front of you, like while sitting at a computer or texting. This small range of motion reduces blood flow to your shoulder. According to the Journal of Rheumatology, in an international systematic review, poor blood flow leads to arthritis and stiff, locked-up shoulders. And it triggers your body to eat away at bone and soft tissue like a piranha. Think about it like this. Blood flow should be like a flowing river. The river of fresh blood rushes in, bringing oxygen to support life, nutrients to repair muscles that stabilize your shoulders, while flushing out nasty pollution that degenerates your cartilage. The bad news is, as we get older, this flowing river freezes over. I call this frozen blood flow, where instead of a flowing river, your river of blood becomes icy, almost stagnant, which is a huge problem. Because every time you use your shoulders to reach into your back pocket, or give your loved ones a big bear hug, or pick something up, your shoulder joint and surrounding muscles produce waste products. So when you experience frozen blood flow, it's like your river of blood freezes over, trapping nasty green algae and brown muck. Or in your case, trapping uric acid, which sends waves of inflammation to your tendons. Stuck pools of lactic acids corrode your nerve endings, while cellular fragments chip away at your joint lining and cartilage. That's why it's so important that healthy blood flow clears out the waste in your shoulder joint, and instead floods it with rejuvenating blood. So if your doctor has blamed wear and tear, nerve impingement, or any other problem, the real issue is frozen blood flow. As you might guess, no doctor is going to tell you about frozen blood flow. They're too busy focusing on prescribing you pills or surgeries, and physical therapists will only suggest face pulls or other basic exercises. Sure, these exercises are a great start, but until you address frozen blood flow, you'll be left disappointed. The good news is reversing frozen blood flow is simple. It all comes down to boosting your blood flow. According to Dr. John Hardin from Albert Einstein College of Medicine, proper circulation opens the floodgates to hydration, nutrients, and oxygen to your joints. Believe it or not, your body already knows this. Have you ever wondered how an injury is pink and warm to the touch? That's from an increase of blood flow. Your body's natural instinct is to rush blood to clear out waste and repair damaged parts of the body. In fact, an international team of doctors used an advanced Doppler ultrasound and found people with arthritis experience an influx of blood to the damaged joint. This research is even in line with using a heating pad. You see, heating your shoulder is a good idea as it promotes blood flow, while icing your shoulder is a different story. Sure, it can be a good idea to reduce pain and swelling immediately after an injury, but besides that, stick to heat so you promote healthy circulation. But we don't just want a little blood flow after the damage is already done. The question is, how can we permanently fix frozen blood flow so your shoulders never give up on you? I discovered the answer several years ago while training my clients with something called an Indian club. And here it is. I know it looks like a bowling pin, yet the Indian club was my secret to helping athletes build strong and stable shoulders. I've given my YouTube and Instagram audience sneak peeks at a few of my Indian club movements, and people went crazy for them, racking up 147,000 views on one video and 296,000 views on another. And I'm not talking about professional athletes either. These are everyday folks, from aging grandparents to people who just want to get back into golfing. So while using an Indian club seems complex, that couldn't be further from the truth. As one of the world's few experts on Indian club training, I have a lot of fancy techniques that I like to use, but in just a couple minutes, I'll show you the easiest beginner-friendly Indian club flow. It's perfect for older populations or people with joint issues. Thankfully, you're not some guinea pig. Indian clubs have been one of the most useful mobility tools throughout history. Ancient Indian warriors used Indian clubs as weapons up to 1300 AD. These warriors could also swing heavy swords and throw spears well into old age. In the 17th century, the British found Indian wrestlers training with Indian clubs, so they brought Indian clubs back to the West. The British made the clubs lighter and easier to use, and suddenly everybody wanted them. Indian clubs were the secret weapon for healthy shoulders for Olympic athletes, Navy SEALs, professional boxers, elite wrestlers, Allied soldiers in World War II, and even US presidents like Calvin Coolidge. Indian clubs were so shockingly effective that schools used Indian clubs to keep children healthy. Everybody, from kids to athletes to soldiers, were using these for strong, mobile shoulders. But after a few decades, people stopped using Indian clubs. Everybody started training with clunky gym equipment and paying attention to new technology like TVs and modern automobiles. Soon, Indian clubs were forgotten. Of course, there have been a few attempts to revive their use. For example, magazines like Men's Fitness showcased Chris Pine on a cover with Indian clubs. But these marketing campaigns were focused on being cool and gimmicky, rather than actually trying to help people with shoulder pain. So modern folks never caught on to using Indian clubs, which is a shame because they are the perfect tool to reverse frozen blood flow. Since Indian club exercises mimic natural primitive movements our bodies were designed to do, they restore healthy circulation in the shoulder joint while strengthening your rotator cuff and improving flexibility. No more struggling to open a heavy door or put on a shirt, and no worrying about a surgery after a tear in your shoulder. But that's not all. Indian club movements support your fascia, the connective tissue that surrounds your muscles, organs, and bones. When fascia is tight, your shoulder feels locked up, and you get painful knots in your back and other areas. The good news is, Indian club movements are rhythmic, pumping fluid through the fascia, keeping your body loose and flexible. Simply put, Indian clubs were a no-brainer. That's why I grabbed one and gave it to Julie. She said, "Zach, these look like toys. How can they help my shoulders?" And after convincing her for a good minute, she finally decided to try my short routine. But as she left, I could see the skepticism on her face, but I didn't lose hope. Lo and behold, the next day, Julie calls me back screaming, "Zach, I can shampoo my hair without pain." Fortunately, this was only the beginning, because 1 week later, Julie called me again and she told me that she slept through the night for the first time in months. Sure, her shoulder felt a little stiff sometimes, but every day the pain got less and less. And 7 days later, she was back to organizing supply shelves at work. She went back to playing pickleball with her husband without paying for it the next day. And best of all, Julie can lift her grandkids again without wincing. Hearing Julie's voice so full of joy, I couldn't help but feel a little silly. The Indian club was my secret weapon to train athletes for years, and yet I overlooked how powerful it was for everyone else. Without a shadow of a doubt, the Indian club is even more suitable for ordinary adults who have shoulder pain, and yet nobody is talking about it. In fact, most people have no idea that Indian clubs even exist until now, because I finally turned my simple routine into the most effective shoulder pain solution available. It's called Ageless Shoulders. Ageless Shoulders is the only program using an Indian club to fix frozen blood flow and stop your shoulder pain for good. Look, I know Indian clubs are probably new to you. You may feel a little hesitant to use them, yet thousands of people in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond have eliminated shoulder pain with them. And unlike grueling 60-minute physical therapy sessions, Ageless Shoulders is a simple, beginner-friendly routine you can do from your living room. Best of all you need is 10 minutes a few times a week and the special Indian club that I'll send to you. The Ageless Shoulders routine is so gentle, we routinely have adults from all walks of life send us raving reviews. This includes people with the worst cases of arthritis, frozen shoulder, rotator cuff issues, or previous surgeries. People like Mark Davidson from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, who wrote,
"Before finding Ageless Shoulders, I couldn't even lift my arm to put on a jacket. My doctor even said that surgery was the only option. But after 2 weeks with your Indian club routine, I can lift my arm overhead with no sharp, stabbing pains. Even last weekend, I got to play catch with my son, something I thought that I'd never really be able to do again."
Susan Thompson from Scottsdale, Arizona shared,
I've been struggling with rotator cuff pain for years.